All right. Yes, we are class full. I'll wait until everybody starts to get in, but I do want to ask, do you guys have an issue if I pull up some of past submissions? Like, because you guys have already done, anybody have an issue? I want to have just an authentic conversation when it comes down to why enhancing documents for readability is so important. So I just want to make sure like everybody's okay, that like I want to show you guys what's been submitted and then kind of talk about what does the submission say about the individual. I'll try my hardest to block everybody's name out, but I might not be able to do that.
Is it from this class?
Yeah, for this class. For this class. But again, there's an intention behind it. It's an intention behind it. All right. But I'll wait until everybody, gets here to really kind of to go through and show. But again, it's completely intentional. Not to criticize anybody, but again, to show what how our written submissions or written work can, speak negatively against us. All right. And I promise you on everything, I'm wrapping up at 7:45, 8 o'clock at the latest. I promise. Now I'm telling y'all aren't wrapping up, but I'm wrapping up at 7:45, 8 o'clock. So one of the things I love about this business communications class, especially for how we focus on it, like it reframes how you go about communicating, how you go about not only talking to people, your writing, how you go about the editing process. It really puts you in the framework of where I find a lot of us, right? We were taught, Jackie, I heard you earlier, I don't know if you're talking about the 3x3 writing process, but the 3x3 writing process is so like foreign to us, right? But when you think about how it is that we were all taught to write, we were always taught to start with the intro, go into the body, and then the conclusion. The problem with that is we not like when you write an intro, who researches? Who like looks at the information? Like who thinks about the people you're writing this intro to? Like most of the time, if we're and I'm gonna speak for myself, but I know it's most of us are right like this. You just go in, I gotta write an intro, let me write an intro, and then okay, now I'm getting into my body. Okay, let me write the body. Now I may do some research, right? Just to add in or add into my explanation. Maybe I wanted to add some clarity or something, if I even do that. And then I write a conclusion, right? So what I love about this process is, again, we're focusing and where we're shifting is the most valuable thing in this course when you're thinking about communication is people are always thinking with them. What's in it for me? So the more we can start to think about when we communicate, to first think about who we're communicating with, and two, that will help us to best present whatever it is for the purpose of being comprehended. When we talk in the professional space, professional realms, especially leadership oriented, right? Management's defined as getting work done effectively and efficiently through people. One of those things, and something I've been really honing in on this week is the definition compelling, right? I think we went over this last week, evoking interest, attention, and admiration in an irrevocable or an irresistible manner, an unevocable, irresistible manner, right? So when you think about being compelling, right? To be compelling, you have to evoke interest, attention, and admiration. What is it about me that would make you be interested, want to pay attention, or create a space of admiration, right? Like there are certain things that I can read and learn and know about, but it doesn't mean I'm compelling to you. So when I look at that and we break down that definition, right? To be compelling, I have to know you. When we're talking a leadership space, if I want to get work done through people efficiently and effectively, There's a piece of the people that we follow, we find them compelling. We trust them, right? We want to learn from them. We want to work with them. Like there are certain things that is there's just something about these individuals that, if you ask me to do something, I'm gonna do it. So when you pull in what we've been learning in this class and how we're approaching different scenarios, understanding before I write, let me analyze the audience, right? It can change the atmosphere of how your conversations occur. I'll use it to the example of just in emails, and again, I apologize if we talked about this last week. I want to do a quick review of what we've reviewed so far, and then we're going to go into reviewing chapter 12 and presentations, and I'm going to pretty much wrap up class from there. All right. But again, trying to bring this thing home because this 3x3 writing process is a game changer, right? For me, when I look at writing an email, I shared with you guys I'm a talk to thinker. And then in being a talk to thinker, when I write emails, I tend to be very explanatory when I write an email. So if you were to send me an email and the first thing you do is explain, for me, this is going to probably delay my response to you. Why is that?
You have to bring good explanation to get to the main point.
And what's my policy on, or what did I tell you guys, my policy with email? Huh? Well, but I have a response time.
Oh, the morning.
So typically I ask for 24 hours. If I don't respond, you're not the only one that asks the question, or when I see you, we'll talk about it. I know that, there might be some things that I can't respond to you in email yet because of what I have going on, in the background, right? But I got 24 hours. So imagine that if you send me an email and it's not direct, where that first sentence explains what you're looking for or asks what you're looking for, and then goes into the explanation. If you start with your explanation, I have to read through that explanation, right? If what you're asked is not clear, right? Like maybe you're trying to ask something in that explanation, but I got to decipher through it. Well, I'm going to delay in my response. I have a 24-hour response time. So if you're sending me an email and this email has a long explanation, you might have a delayed response, which then could cause stress on you, right? So imagine you send me an email on Friday, right? We just got done class. You can have that explanation. I may have to send you another email back and ask you clarifying questions, right? So when I say there's a delayed time for you to even complete your work, because of how you sent the email and it wasn't direct, it led with an explanation and it wasn't really clear of what you were looking for. I had to ask another question. You had to get the email. You then had to respond to me with that. Depending on the window of when you emailed me, if it was morning or evening, might be the time frame of when I respond back to you. So because you started an email with a long explanation and not started first with the direct question and ask, and then leading into the explanation, it caused now my response, which could have been a 15-minute really quick direct answer, turns into a 2-day back and forth process where now you're more stressed because if I would have gave you the answer right away, you wouldn't have been delayed on doing your work. Or let's do it, let's say you wait until Wednesday to send me an email. Imagine that environment where if you didn't start your work until Wednesday, then you had questions. I have a 24-hour response time. You're probably stressed on the back end. But again, my question is, whose fault is it? Who's responsible for that? Is it my fault because I was delayed in sending you an email response, or is it your fault because of how you sent me the email in the first place? So imagine this, and again, this kind of goes it's why it's so important of this whip 'em and understanding who you're talking to, who the audience is, being direct to your intentions or to your request, right? And then breaking down that format of the explanation and so forth. For you guys, the way that the text talks about this formatting stuff, realistically, when we're in corporate America, most of these documents are already written up for us. And ironically, they probably follow this format, and we just never knew there was actually a structure or a system that was behind it, right? So you can create this with intentionality on, that hey, when I'm sending these type of communications, I want to go with this format and structure, right? But again, how we're really making it applicable in this class, forget the corporate part. How do you go about handling your communications? Ultimately, for the purpose of being comprehended, and then also being, I'll call it influential and motivational. You want to create those moments where you develop relationships with individuals, right? And you talk to them in a manner with an open perspective where you can accept who they are, what they're about, but create that as an opportunity to be compelling. So ultimately, again, when I ask you to do something, you do it for me. But it all starts by me focusing on you, not me focusing on me. All right, so again, game changer, totally different than what we're taught, but we gotta understand and see, and what I keep on trying to reinforce is look at the challenges that happen in your communication. If you feel that people don't listen to you, I question, is it how you're communicating to them? It's not that they don't listen, you're talking too much. Be direct. Be clear about what it is that you're asking and how you ask individuals. Understanding the difference between an open-ended question versus closed-ended question, right? A closed-ended question is very, you lose control. From an influential perspective, and then even giving instructions, right? Working in teams, when one of the challenges I find with working in teams, we start up in groups and then we split up work, right? Literally, we go in, we just split up the work. I don't know what you're strong at. I don't know what you're weak at. I don't know how you work. I don't know, hey, you're a night owl. Do you get your stuff done early in the morning? I have no idea. I just come in and say, hey, look, you do this part, you do this part, you do that part. Is that good for everybody? And then we go off into our merry own schedule. But then what happens when we do that? What has happened? Let's be honest. What was the biggest challenge that all of us, most of us, experienced this week? Communication. People, this is a challenge. There are so many platforms that we're all monitoring and managing, right? I told you guys, email makes me stressful, right? Or it makes me stressed. But my challenge is, and I'm still waiting for a couple more people, but let's be real. We are here to, we're here at HT. All communications that you guys should have is through HT. You guys don't check your email at HT. Is it my fault because it's too much work? Or is it your fault for time management behind the systems, the tools, and the things that you have to do? The stress is there. It's a lot of work, but it's all doable if you give yourself time. All right, but now we have this stress because we got in, we talked after class, right? Everybody was like, okay, we're gonna meet, these are our groups, and you do this, you do this, and then everybody leaves, and now, I didn't hear anything from anybody's email. Well, I didn't get a text message response. I didn't get how do you go, like, is it their fault that they didn't respond, or is it your fault? Like, and like, this is again, how I see this translating in corporate America. It's what I love to say, in this environment, you practice how you play, right? It's what I love about even from the traditional and the ADP program. You guys come from so many different diverse backgrounds, have different learning styles. Some of you haven't been in school for years. Coming back into this environment, you got to learn how to like do certain things. Like maybe you're an MLA person and now it's APA. You got to learn APA. You got to learn how to use Canvas. You got to learn how to use Word. You got to learn how to use Google Docs. You got to learn, like, there's all this technology stuff that you got to keep absorbing and learn. And like now, you know, again, the main platform of how we communicate is all through HT email. And we don't check our HT email. So I'd argue, if you don't check your HT email, do you check your Canvas assignment, like Canvas modules? And how often? Right? So like what I'm gonna, like, even when I say pulling up assignments and showing you guys what the format, again, I'm not pulling these assignments up from a grading or a critiquing purpose. I'm pulling the assignments up to show you what it speaks about you. And it all comes down to how we manage our time. It's not ability. It's not I mean, even in this class, it's like always blows my mind. Like, I mean, I've had students that speak 6 languages, students that I've actually had students from Cote d'Ivoire, it's the Ivory Coast. One student came here literally to learn how to speak English. He's in an international business management class, giving presentations, junior level, can't speak English. And I can see the progress of him presenting. He presents better than students speaking English. Like once he got to the end, he was speaking better or presenting better than my students that spoke English. He had more confidence. He had more, like, he was clearly pronouncing his words, but he practiced, he prepared, right? So like, you know, but that's coming from a whole different atmosphere. Right? Like, that's a whole different monster, you know, coming, like, you know, I mean, we get students from Africa that literally never been to America, and like, I got students from Costa Rica, students from Colombia, all that, and they're here in this environment. Different academic systems, like European, like, you know, they had a European academic system coming into, you know, here in this environment. Like, this is, all the factors that are at play. But realistically, corporate America-wise, or academia, no matter what you have going on, whether it's full-time work, whether it's family responsibilities, we get shit done. And the way you get shit done is through how you manage your time. We talked about this last week. Even in how we manage our time, like, indicates how stressed or unstressed we are, right? And the things that you need to do to reduce your stress are things that require time. But if you're walking around stressed, how are you communicating with everybody?
I'm stressed. I don't play devil's advocate. Professor Byron, I don't believe, not in my world, that it's just that black and white. I just don't believe that. Because, you know, coming into this program, it took me 35 years to make the decision. Mm-hmm. And I have the same fears that everybody else there's 2,000 people who went to HT that did not graduate that's in Austin, Texas. Mm-hmm. Because there's a fear of the technology, there's a fear of everything. And coming back into this, I have a full-time job, a part-time job, and then I am volunteering for a campaign. I'm a campaign manager. So had I known it was going to be this type of work, because I do consider myself academia, and I want the excellence, I just don't think that if I had known, like when I went to my orientation, that it was going to be this intense, I don't think I would have taken it on. Because I now take off my job just to try to catch up. And I drive an hour in here and work, and then I go to Dallas and work. So I just don't believe that it's black and white when you say, you know, you just have to get shit done. Because that doesn't, you know, the old me, before I was 53, would say, oh man, I'm not doing my job. But the new me, I don't let that sink in, because I know me and I know what I do. And I just think that this is gonna be a factor if I'm gonna even continue. Because of the adult decisions that the job, my lifestyle, and I can't even think of having kids and doing this and working. It just wouldn't fit. I would have to make a decision whether to continue work or to do an adult degree program, which I did not come into it thinking it was going to be that strenuous because I live an hour away and I work. And so I just don't, in my world, it's not black and white.
I mean, I honestly, argue, you made my point, right? You drive an hour here, you drive an hour back, you have all these other obligations. Like, it comes down to how you manage your time, whether you meet those obligations or not. And if you don't meet those obligations, you're stressed. Is that my fault? Is that the academics' fault? Or is that personally your fault? And the words are terrible, right? But I mean, talk to your fault to how you manage and approach managing your time. With this program, and I want to address that part, understand I am probably totally different than any professor you will come across in this program. So I guarantee you, if you don't got me, it will probably be way easier. My argument to that is, why are you here? If you just wanted to come here, listen to somebody speak, and then go home. The stuff that you're doing in this program, the stuff that you're learning, your goal is to apply it. You're probably trying to get a job or access to another job. You're not getting a job just because you said, hey, I got my college degree. You're getting a job because you talk about your STAR situation, the situations you've come across, the tasks that were required, the actions you completed, and what were the results. Like, you're not taking, like how are you implementing this stuff in class? Like in your interviews, how you implement this is stuff you can talk about. Like, this is translatable skill sets, right? Now, what I find, and this is what I was saying last week, we have students versus academics. You have students that just come in, they just say, let me do what I need to do. I complete the work and I get my grade and I go home, right? They're the ones that go into corporate America, they show up, they're on time, they do their work, and they expect to be promoted. But we all know that just coming to work and doing your job is not what gets you a promotion, especially for a minority. We have to work 10 times harder and be 10 times more intentional in how we show up in corporate America just to stand out. What you're doing here and what I love about this program, and for you guys making the decisions to have full-time lives, volunteer responsibilities, family responsibilities, you get the same degree as a traditional student does when you walk across. Your degree does not say stamped ADP, stamped 5-week accelerator. Why I'm more proud and why I appreciate teaching this ADP program is because you do 95%, 90% of what my traditional students do in a 17-week period. You do it in 5. And then I will also say, I think there's a piece and a component of we don't have a realistic understanding of what's truly required in academia. Like, what you're really doing to get your degree. Like, really what you're doing is saying that you spent X amount of hours, and that hours is what qualifies you for that degree. For the ADP program, why it's allowed to be a 5-week accelerated program is because you spend 20 hours in class for a 5-week period, and then what you're supposed to do is spend another 20 weeks or 20 hours per week outside of class. And that's in learning team assignments and completing your work, which is why in this program, 5 weeks, you're doing 3 chapters a week. But that would be tradition. That would be the expectation for traditional as well. Like, there is no difference. And what I also say is, and why I truly love doing this, right? And why I hold everybody accountable to the work. But it's because what I find is that you have so many different people with different stories, different issues, different everything, right? I've had, there was a young lady who had a 3-year-old child. She would come here, work, she'd go to work, go home, take care of her kid, go to drop them off, whoever's taking care of the child, come back, pick them up after class. She would do her work at 11 o'clock at night, between 11 and 3 o'clock in the morning. She had issues in her group because people weren't doing their work. I gave a bad grade because she could split the work. All of a sudden, somebody didn't do their part. But one team member told me, hey, this person didn't do A, B, and C. I made an update to the document, I gave that team member a 190, whatever it was. The rest of the team got the 60. This A student was livid with me. Like, I'm the one that did this assignment wrong. And you know what also didn't happen? That person that actually corrected the team document never spoke up. So in class, I'm getting cussed out by this A student who really, she's not cussing me out because of anything I did. She's like upset because she put in all this work. She has to be up until 3 o'clock in the morning, and then you get this bad grade because of somebody else. Now, what I love about that is, and again, what I love about this course is that you get to learn how you respond when you're working with people. You get to learn how you respond in stressful situations, right? And again, this thing goes back to like this is data, like science. Happy employees earn more over their career, right? Happy employees earn more revenue for the company. Happy employees are more successful. I challenge one, and again, looking at this framework and structure, why we need to look at ourselves, why I challenge with the time management and stress and all that stuff is, first, are you really happy? And then two, if you're not happy, how successful are you right now? So we need to really truly be aligned with things that make us happy, because when I'm in these spaces, I'm happy at the company I work for. I'm probably more motivated. I'm probably more driven. I probably converse with more people. Like I probably say hi and good morning. I'm probably happy when I come to work, which means I get more shit done. Even when life likes. So even in the tension of kind of having this focus, right? This is what we're dealing with internally, where we're all dealing with these stressful situations, but when it comes down to it, when that assignment's due, you get your stuff done. You may not do it to the level that you want to, but you get it done. Other people choose just not to do it at all. I've taught this class for 4 years now. The same course material. Yeah. Next has been on my online class, and it's the same exact material. The work is the work, and it's honestly not hard work. Last week was really challenging for me, with you guys, not only because people weren't responding to each other in email. Like I literally, for 11 students in this class, I have on average 8 submissions for every assignment. Completely unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. And there's no excuse to say that it's for any other reason. It's not because the work's too hard. Like literally, there was an email that went out today when I'm trying to email this group 3 days ago. Sorry, but I'm trying to email this group to connect people 3 to 4 days ago. Nobody responded. One person responds today at 3 o'clock. So that means if you responded today at 3 o'clock, I guarantee you probably didn't do your group work. Is it my fault, or is it lack of time management? Is it lack of motivation? Is it lack of happiness? Which, in those points, at this stage in the game, I would question why. Because you're only causing your own stress. But this is valuable. It's worth it, especially for you guys, because corporate America wants you. Like these companies would prefer to hire you over hiring traditional students. But again, if you're stressed at work, unhappy, you don't want to come here anyway, I guarantee you these networking events that the university has, you're not going to. I guarantee you, you don't step out the box to introduce yourself to Dr. Thompson, who's been here every time we're in class with his door cracked open. That's the man you probably want to know because he's the one that got opportunities, and I guarantee you he's willing to sit down with each and every one of them. But then we kind of play this small ball to your last comment to say some things, you stop by fear. Or some things you don't do by fear. Right? So again, I say this in the sense of how do these things impact your communication? And then not only how do they impact your communication, how do these things impact how people receive you, how people comprehend you, and then ultimately, if people do the things you want or not. I truly believe we cause our own frustrations and stress because everything requires time. Like to go through this 3x3 writing process, and if you guys were actually to implement this and work, that means before I send this email, I got to think about this person. And then once I think about this person, I then got to research. And then once I research, I got to put it out. I don't got that much time to send an email. Let me just fire this thing off. In corporate America, we call that quick draw McGraw, and quick draw McGraw always makes mistakes, always makes errors. For you, and you, and you, and you, and you make mistakes in corporate America, people are judging your character, your integrity, and your ability. And ultimately blocking you from opportunities. Because it takes time. But again, at what cost? At what detriment? Please.
Are you asking me a question?
Continue the dialogue. I mean, if it's a good dialogue. It's helping.
No,
This is all intentional.
I what you're saying, I got to say, I just don't think it, my reasoning for coming back doesn't fit a certain mold,
And it could be this program.
You know.
I think this program was actually it would be better to be an online program. If this was online, you guys would have, like, if it was a hybrid, not online. If this was hybrid, you guys would probably all love this better. However, my thing with hybrid is, and during COVID, we had hybrid. I mean, shoot, I didn't even come into the school until 6 months after, like, they opened everything back up. But everybody in hybrid, ADP especially, when we had class, you guys go on the computer and all I see is this. Nobody's watching, nobody's listening, and like, you're not present. So then again, I asked the question, like, why are you here? Which is like why I am the way I am with managing these courses. First, I didn't write the syllabus. The syllabi is written by, in its inception, Dr. Thompson and Dr. Carter. I've been here for 5 to 6 years or 8 years now. So I obviously have manipulated and updated my syllabi, but it was off the structure of what they wrote. I have my master's. I serve as an expert, but I can't write like the actual course. Now I can because obviously I've been here for some time, but in its inception, I'm not supposed to, they do that structure. So even down to the work you do is based off of the curriculum that they created and established. What I find is that when we complain about the work, like, again, I ask, like, why are we in school if you don't want to do the work? Like, I don't want to be a part of a program. I don't want to teach for a program where students just literally come in here and they like don't do anything, but they walk away with a degree. My first time coming here, my first class was actually Intro to Business Management, Small Business Management. That's my bread and butter. If you guys have small business management next, you will have me. It's going to be a fun iteration of small business management, but I'm going to make y'all some money. Know that about me. I'm very application based, and I'm here for your success in any magnitude and every magnitude. But the first time, one, everybody was in groups. Two, they were really dead hard centered on those groups. They didn't want to be switched. You get to week 4 or week 5 time frame. One girl walked across the stage because they had all graduated like a little bit early before the class finished, their class schedule finished. And she said, I actually made it through this whole program and did not do one drop of work. She was working in teams. She was always complaining. Two people were like, look, I'm not dealing with her. Look, let's just get the work done. And she literally coasted through this program off of their backs. Like, I don't want to be associated to any program like that. I wouldn't be associated to any I guarantee you, anybody that has come through my course or any of my courses, you earned it. And nobody could ever say anything different. And I think that's the most valuable thing about any college degree, because ultimately your degree from this school is just as good as a degree from Harvard. It's just as good as a degree from UT. It's just as good as any of these top schools, because this school is ACASB certified, which means that we are a certified business school and your degree is just as good as, it's the same. It doesn't say ADP. So even more so, again, as the academic I'm not walking through no program that's bullshit, because it doesn't help anybody, right? Like let's be real, it's my belief, it's not the teachers, it's not the professors that make the university, it's you guys. You guys becoming successful in whatever magnitude that is, and then ultimately coming back and giving scholarships and fundraisings and fundraisers, supporting fundraisers for the school. The students make it successful, not me. I may help to sharpen the brains and minds and open access to the door, but you guys kick through. And I guarantee you, the ones that just come here and don't do the work, don't kick through shit. And that impacts all of us. But now it's the brand of the university. And when I have somebody that's at this company from HT, if they don't get the work done, that represents all of y'all. Right? The next time I see a resume that says HT, I'm gonna not even look at it, because, oh no, HT people they don't have initiative. They don't learn A, B, and C. And, again, you guys are competing against UT. You're competing against St. Ed's. You're competing against Concordia. You're competing against you're competing against other seasoned professionals that have years of experience and a college degree. Now they're looking for their MBA, their master's, and so forth. That's the corporate market. You always have to learn, and you always have to stay desirable in the market. We've all learned from, my first time learning it was 2006. These companies are not loyal to none of us. They'll let you go in a second. And I think we can read, after COVID, they ain't loyal to you. That whole coming into work, being dedicated, a great employee, and being committed, and I do my job, that's not getting you to that next job promotion. And what I also find, and tying it into this course, we allow other people to dictate our success. All right, we go into our one-on-ones, our annual reviews, and how do you typically approach your annual review? Who loves an annual review? How do you typically approach your annual review?
I come with calls. So I work for Southwest, and we do a monthly coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And every month of coaching, you sit down and you listen to a few of your calls. You have your team leader listen with you, and go over your calls. I think the first 2 years, I was prepared every time.
Mm-hmm.
I've been as prepared recently, but also there's been tension.
And don't get into it. I just asked that why, because remember our happiness.
Yeah.
And then once there's something that shifts our happiness, it shifts our progress, our motivation, and so forth.
Yeah.
But we got families, we're adults, and we got bills. So you know what? I'm going to put on this face, and I'm gonna go in there because I need that paycheck on Thursday. All right.
Yeah.
But that's why I was,
No, and when you were saying it, that's exactly what I think. And another point of contention is that, if I look at my sales, even just last year, I was number one in the region, number one in my team, over $140,000 worth of sales and facility revenue, and it still meant something, but not enough to mean that, enough monetarily.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
there's tension now.
Right.
I think for me, being in education, I was a teacher for 13 years, so you knew, okay, when your principal or assistant principal come in, it's time, and they let you know, like, hey, at the end of the year, we doing our observation. I think for me, when you prepare for that, they give you dates, like, okay, this is when we come in. So you would try to do the best Because you gotta accommodate for students
Yeah.
to perform for that administration. I think for me, I knew my happiness was that when I wake up every morning, like, damn, I gotta deal with these kids again. Like, that's how I knew I gotta go on something different. I gotta go to a different route because when I hated, I started hating coaching and I love coaching, right? I was doing that and I'm like, nah, I gotta get out this people's face that I'm having. So I knew that was my time to transition to another career. And I just feel like teaching wasn't my career. I didn't feel like that was my purpose. I was doing it just to get a paycheck and get some summer breaks off. You know what I'm saying?
Where were you teaching?
I was done. Well, I taught from Beaumont, from my
Have you
home.
ever Teach for America?
Have I ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never heard of it, but I don't.
Just curious, we're at this part right now, so actually I got a lot of friends out in Philly. They graduated, undergrad, they did Teach for America. So Teach for America, I believe you teach for 4 to 5 years, basically in the hood. And then they pay for your master's program. So you get a lot of students, or well, a lot of people that will go do Teach for America. You live in the city, you're probably in a less expensive area. But during that time of teaching, you're also studying for like your GMATs, your GREs, and your LSATs. So you spend that 4 to 5 years prepping to get the scores you want, and then you apply to the Harvard, the UTs, and now you have a paid program that, when you graduate, you're getting 6 figures without, but because I was asking.
Yeah, that was the thing, like, I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I was like, then I'm good with math. That's my thing. I'm math based. I was like, shoot, I just go into accounting. That's why I like big bucks in. So that's why I was like.
And now, so that's even another thing too, where, this is tangenting, but, we tend, like, I see the business management degree. I think it's for you guys. Like a traditional student with no work experience shouldn't be going to school for business management, right? And, especially the way corporate America is going, what skill set is a business management degree when you are interviewed, right? Like, let's be honest, it's people skills, it's communication, right? If you're not doing accounting, or if you're not doing marketing, or if you're not doing like management information systems or computer information systems, like you're really just doing a high level communications degree, which when I go into corporate America and interview for jobs, which, Jackie, which is again why I'm pushing on this whole subject is, when you come in here and you can't speak to anything you've learned, then what benefit is it doing you in an interview? If I can't speak to the things I can learn, the systems I can apply, like I learned in an accounting class how to use pivot tables, so I can bring that skill set here, right? So a lot of times we kind of become our own detriment in that manner, by not being able to even apply what it is that we're learning. Now for you guys as well, I learned early on the best way to be successful at a company is to make yourself indispensable. The only way you can make yourself indispensable is by developing the right relationships and then also learning something special that is inside the company. The only way you learn something special inside the company is by training yourself. You can't ask somebody else to do it for you. All right, so like a lot of the most successful people I've seen in corporate, they go in, they become a student for 6 months, and then they start implementing their own solutions, which again comes back to our problem, right? And why I love this communications course and how we go about prepping to talk to people. Going back to the how do we approach those annual reviews. Most of us come into the review and we just listen. Most of us don't like annual reviews because it's a moment for your boss to basically tell you how much of a not shit employee you are, right? And for lack of a, right, it's not that, it's the, look, you're a great employee, but I can't give you 5 stars on everything because that means you don't have any room for improvement. And that's not the case, right? Like this is what look, I would give you a 4% raise, but we only got enough to do 2%. Look, I didn't even get a raise myself, right? This is the stuff we listen to, where what I suggest, and again, leaning on this course, is you never let somebody dictate your career and the trajectory of your career and where you're going. So first, nobody should know your job better than you. right? Like, nobody should know your job better than you. So when I'm coming into when I'm coming into my annual, review, right? I know my job. I know what I'm strong at and I know what I'm weak at. So my conversation isn't, hey, tell me what you think I need to be better at. It's, hey, this is where I'm really strong, and these are areas where I'm not as strong, but I would love some training. So again, you're controlling that through the conversation versus what most of us do is we expect our managers and leaders to identify it and then support us through that unspoken expectation or unspoken discomfort, unspoken inefficiencies and so forth, right? So I argue we let our success or where we go in our career dictate based off of somebody said we did good or we didn't do good. Now, this goes back to what we talked about, and I'll say this is the we talked about this in week one, right? From a minority to non-minority. This is the we'll laugh if you see outside in the grocery store, there's a little Caucasian kid and they're screaming, yelling, temper tantrum, and like the parents like, look, you can get whatever you want, Timmy. Like, and we're like we see a kid yelling at a parent. His ass whooped, right? Like that, right? It's this. So what that does when you think about going into corporate America, right? That individual, that child that always got what they want, when they ask their boss for a raise, when they ask their boss for a job, increase or a new job, a job advancement, when they don't get it, they say, cool. They walk out, they start applying for a job, and then they come back and they say, hey, this job's going to give me X amount of dollars. Are you going to match or not? They don't match, they go. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The other side of that is we have been taught as children, right? You work hard, you'll get rewarded, right? So we go into corporate America and we sit in these situations. We listen to our manager tell us what we're good at and what we're not. Most likely, they're always going to point out the things we're not good at, and then, okay, boss, and we keep on moving, and we're upset, right? But you're a good worker, you get shit done, but you're allowing your destiny to be controlled by the person who has that title, right? So it's this like one, and it is why in this class we do this project where I'm very big on set your stake in the ground and claim it, right? So the resume project, like everything I do is super intentional, right? And like everything you've done in these assignments, you can take it with you. I can show you how to make money off of these assignments. Like I can show you how to build this into like something that you can actually make your own revenue stream from. All right. And we've talked about it, right? From writing a speech. Like you could write a speech about how to show up as a middle schooler going into high school. And then you could literally record yourself reading that speech, make updates, go to all the schools that you've already been and say, hey, we've had this issue with the kids being prepared going from middle school to high school. So I put this speech in a little program around where I can mentor the kids. All I want is $500 for my time. I'll be an hour, and then here's the kid. And it's one speech that you can present that same speech to everybody. You can record yourself. You can create a speaker's reel. Like you can do so much with that in today's society. And it's all like from these tools. Like, and it's again what I love about this internet thing, because when I write and post something on the internet, I always got a chance to edit. And you never know when my edit was last done. You never know that was the first time I read this recording or speech, but the second time I read it, the third time I read it, the fourth time I read it, the fifth time I read it, it gets so much better, so much more fluid. And nobody ever knew when your first time was compared to when your 100th time was. But starting with intro, body, and conclusion and how we communicate is probably, a detriment to you. So I just wanted to, again, just kind of go through what we've learned in class and just, just kind of drive this thing home. And I really do want you guys to like take this 3x3 writing process with you. All right. And it's solely because the most important part about the writing process is the first part, pre-writing. understanding your audience, and with them, what's in it for me. All right. When we look at this informal research methods, and again, with this communication thing, what this tells me is you got to have the right relationships inside your company. If you don't have the right relationships with people, if you don't take the moment to be intentionally compelling, which means when I come to work, I show up, I talk, I say hi to people, I go to people I don't know. Like, I would highly suggest, go to your job, and then if there's a manager that you don't know that works in another department, knock on their office and say, hey, can we have a cup of coffee? I'd love to learn more about you, your career, and what you do for this company. You're building a champion. You're taking a moment to get somebody that's in rooms that you're not in to speak for your character, right? You have multiple people that speak to your get shit done attitude. When you have issues with your manager and your manager is restricting your growth, your manager's not putting you in other opportunities, you creating these relationships with people that are in the room with your manager. When your manager says, oh, that person's not ready for that opportunity, this champion says, I got them, go ahead. I've been meeting with them and mentoring them, I'll make sure they're ready. Without you saying a word, they're there for you to champion for you. I automated 90% of my job. Literally, it was because I made friends with the individuals that were the programmers. One guy was Indian, I would go by, like, every morning, I would say good morning to him in his language, and I would say, let's go get coffee in his language, right? Like, but by doing that, it allowed me, I taught myself, and this is, the skill set one that I want you guys to take on from just being in academia. I taught myself how to use low-level scripting or batch files to, like, move one file to another folder. And I basically started to implement that into the system. And then every high-level coding, piece of coding that I needed, if I needed something to be moved or whatever to be done that was high level, I went right to them. They didn't say, I'm too busy, I got projects, leave me alone. They were always open door policy. I was never annoying to them. And it was because I was friends with them. I'm not gonna say I was compelling. I was friends with them, where we've all been in this place. Like, imagine you're training people and this person keeps on coming to you, asking you the same old question, right? Eventually you're stressed, like, I told you. Or this person you train does everything the way they want to do it. And then when you have a question, you're like, look, I'm showing you this way, but you want to do it your own way. You know what? You're on your own. And it's really because you're not creating that compelling situation, that friendly situation, where somebody is willing to help you, willing to show you. We probably had this in jobs where you come in, I'll speak for myself, I've come in the jobs and there was nobody to train you. I can do one of two things in that scenario. I can sit there and wait, or I can go and start to dive in and make my own pay. Which one are you? Again, when you look at this 3x3 writing process, think about the flow. First, I'm looking at the audience, right? But when I'm looking at the audience, what are the two things I'm doing? Like, what am I doing first, right? Like, when I'm looking at the audience.
Making connections, building eye contact.
The first part of the 3x3 writing process.
Sorry, yeah.
You said the first part of the 3x3?
Pre-writing, what's the first part of pre-writing? What am I gonna do though?
Like, figure out your audience?
But what is the first thing I do in that 3x3 writing process? I'm going to
Analyze, participate in that, should we go a different route?
what's the first question on page 4?
What's the purpose?
Yeah, I kept saying purpose.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Define the purpose.
Okay,
So
yeah.
before I analyze the audience, I'm defining the purpose of what my message is. Again, the way we've been taught is the first thing to do is to do what? Right? An intro. The intro has no purpose defined to it. I may have something I want to talk about, but I have no focus because I'm focused on writing an introduction. So the first thing we do in this 3x3 writing process is define the purpose. How can I translate this into regular life? Never have a meeting without a defined purpose. I never walked into any meeting without defining what I want to get out on the back of it. What do I want to cover? What do I want to talk about? What are the 3 questions I need answered? Preparation, that's analyzing my audience. But first, what are the things I want? Who's going to be there? And then how do I control the conversation, or how do I pitch the conversation? In a way where, and again, imagine this, so what I would recommend for you guys in corporate America, and this is a little bit different for some of you, like this is why we're doing that, the final assignment, where you guys picked a job that was a director role or above. You did research on the company, and then the resume that you'll submit is just a formatted resume, enhanced for readability. And then the cover letter should be directed directly towards that company, given the breakdown that's covered in the textbook, chapter 14, where you sell yourself. All right. The purpose behind that is, I imagine, again, all of you are looking for not only just a new job, the next job, but you want a job that has some type of responsibility to it. If you don't have the experience, what do you need to get that experience? So again, most of us, we take the job that takes us first because we got bills to pay. If you don't got mommy and daddy that can cover these bills and take care of you while and you can go and search for the job you want, we don't have that luxury, right? So looking at this process and why I do this final in this magnitude is because I think a lot of times we don't look out in the future to plan out our career, right? We take the role where I get in this job, I work real hard, and if I shine, then I'm going to become a manager. But again, there's no intentionality in that, there's no strategy in that, and there's no control in our own destiny in that. Because we're literally going to work just to work hard and hope that we get honored for that hard work. Well, when I look at a VP, a director role, it tells me what experience that the job is looking for. It tells me what certifications, what education is required, desired, or liked but not needed. So if you want to be a VP of human resources, if you want to be a VP of marketing, if you want to be whatever that big title is, search those jobs now and look at 4, 5, 15 different companies, but understand what are the skill sets that I need to be in demand and qualified for this position. From that point, that's your 10-year goal. In 10 years, I'm going to be here, right? So in 10 years, what's the next path? I need a degree, right? So here you guys got 2 years. So boom, 2 years, I get my degree. What's the next thing? I need certification. So boom, I get my degree, now I got certifications. What's the next thing? Well, they had experience with the contact center, they had experience with sales, they had experience with, okay, so I need to have a lateral movement intentional. So I got the education, I got the certification, now I work 2 years with the corporate, the contact center. I'm switching to another company in the same industry, but now I'm working in the marketing department. I'm switching to another company 2 years later in the same industry, but now I'm working in another. So when I apply for that job, I got the education, I have the experience, but I also have an experience that has reach. I'm not in one company, I've worked in 4. So when I'm applying for this job, what makes me stand out is I have the experience and I have a broad range of different cultures I've been around that I can probably bring something new to the table that is what you guys are looking for. When I ask or interview for the job, I'm speaking to what I've accomplished. I'm speaking to my skills. I'm not speaking to my degree. I'm speaking to what matters for them in corporate. But again, I was intentional on developing that skill set. But you didn't do it because you were working hard. You did it because you kept researching and understanding, okay, what do I need and what do I need experience in, or what do I need to have some type of tangible skill set in, and how do I develop it? We've had There's actually a lady, it's a company called,
Professor Bowers?
yes.
I'm sorry, and I'm trying, and not, I'm not trying to be rude, just, are we gonna get to chapter 12 or something? I know you're.
Yes.
Okay.
I will, thank you,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and we will, because I'm getting you guys out of here at 7:45-ish, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure you got there, okay?
All right, so,
The lady
The lady.
who was in a program.
Yeah.
okay, so, it was this, something with a V. They were a new software, engineering company. She talked about how there was an individual who, it was a woman who was a seasoned employee. She worked in education for 19 years, all right? And she was looking to get into tech. So what she did was she actually, taught herself SQL. She went to YouTube University, started to familiarize herself with SQL, and then she interviewed for a job with that company, which it was like an IT job that required you having a SQL skill set. So she showed up to the interview, said, hey, you know, I've been teaching myself SQL. She didn't get that job, but she got another job inside the company, and then continued that same dedication, and ultimately the next year, another position opened up where she really wanted. She was able to go in there by just getting her foot in the door, right? So, you know, all down to, you know, how she approached, not only developing the relationships, you know, working with these companies, like she researched the skill set that I needed with SQL, she taught herself SQL, and then that ultimately is what got her into the company, not into the job right away. All right, so what I love about this project is you guys research a company that my hope is, one, that you want to work for. Two, it is a position that you're actually pursuing for. So if you don't have that skill set, which in that first assignment, that's why I put in there, what skills do you not have? And how can you plan to develop it? Right? We have to be intentional in the information's out there. All right. So again, that first part of the 3x3 writing process, in the pre-writing, the first thing you do is set your purpose, right? Again, translating that into, I don't walk into any meeting. I don't walk into an interview without a purpose. I don't walk into any room without researching the people that are going to be there. So while it's the 3x3 writing process, I also live my life by this. I'm never walking into a room not prepared, right? We've done a speech, you introduce yourself to executives, right? You had to research the people in the room to give that speech and ultimately pitch yourself, right? You did a elevator pitch to Dr. Thompson or to a billionaire, right? These are people that have an opportunity, but how do you align yourself with them? You gotta research, understand who they are. One, you gotta set your purpose, your topic, right? Like, I wanna have a meeting. I want to be a mentor. I want a job opportunity. I want an internship. Whatever it is, that then allows you to set the scope and the focus of where your research is, so you can align with that message, and ultimately, this is what I communicate. For the outline, I'm following, like any outline you guys do, like all of them will be graded off of this. So this was on page 66, figure 3.2. All right. I would have like your outline should define the purpose. Now this divides the main topic into 3 to 5 major components. What this doesn't say, we still use the intro, the body, and conclusion format. Okay, so that's 3 to 5 major components. I still expect you guys to clearly identify this in intro, right? I would accept if define the main topic, that was your intro part. But then going into the next components gets into your body. All of your body should have 3 to 5 main components with supporting content under that. So my expectation is that your pre-writing outlines are formatted this way, and your topic-based outlines are written this way. It applies more to the topic-based outline than the pre-writing, because the pre-writing is question and answer. So the pre-writing, just include the questions, enter, tab, response, right? And you can do like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1A, and then I, like whatever format, just consistently format, okay? Now, this is the most important part again, right? And imagine, this all happens at the pre-writing process, right? So first, I define my topic, but then the second most important part is, how is this message going to be received? Which is ultimately where we are right now and what I'm, reinforcing, because this is the roadmap, right? To how I go about communicating. If the audience is going to be pleased, somewhat interested, or neutral, I'm going to be direct. So when I'm speaking to an audience and I know that this audience is going to be neutral, I don't need to explain. If I know this audience is familiar with this topic, they could care less, I can be direct, but I have to understand, what do I need to be direct about? And why is it important to them? So again, it causes me to think more before I process out this message. The second side of that is, if they're going to be uninterested, displeased, disappointed, or hostile, I'm going to be indirect, but in a specific way, specific structure, right? In that indirect could be taken as just fluff. The very important part about this indirect strategy is being aligned with the person you're communicating with. Like, this was that buffer should be compatible to that person, or that buffer should make sense to that person. Like, if I'm about to give you bad news, I'm not gonna be like, oh, it's really nice weather out here. But look, since you weren't here in class today, unfortunately, you're not gonna get credit for this assignment. However, going forward, make sure that you email me before so that I can, right, okay, you gave me the bad news. Okay, you went to the formula, but why are you telling me it's nice outside? Right? Like, you're throwing me off of something that has nothing to do with me or this conversation. So why that's bad is, when I go, I'm like, you're giving me some BS, and I'm probably responding to you in a hostile manner versus responding to you in a friendly manner. Again, the sentence structure, you college folks, you try to reach word minimums, so you add extra words, right? Get rid of that. The more words, the less it's comprehended. So again, I say this to myself, I'm a talk to thinker, but I know I'm also very detail oriented. Get it out, get to the point, Dayron. Because people comprehend, 8 to 15 is like your sweet point. All right. The more words, the less it's comprehended. Okay. And then this final part, paragraphs, right? So even when I go about the writing process, in my mind, right, I'm always thinking about the audience first. I'm always putting that topic first and understanding how are they going to receive this message. But ultimately, I don't want to write more than 15 words per sentence, and my paragraph should not be more than 8 lines. Now, for sake of time, I'm going to go into 12 before I go back into 6, 7, and 8. We went through 6 and 7, we didn't go through 8, but I think you guys understand the difference in the structure and how we started this class talking about how we respond and communicate to people. The way they respond to us is probably our fault, right? So if I'm leading an email with a long explanation and then somebody doesn't respond to me right away, is it my fault or is it their fault? All right, like, most likely, if I didn't start with a direct statement and what I wanted, and then lead into the explanation, I probably caused my own delay in your response because of how I structured that email, right? We saw the negative news, and we saw when you give that negative news and that buffer, the reasons, the explaining the bad news, and when I give the bad news, or not explaining, when I give the bad news, how do I give the bad news? 2 techniques we're going to use. First is to de-emphasize the bad news using the passive voice. And then the most important thing, once you give the bad news, never do what? Never say it again. So even when you look at the structure, that bad news is 1 sentence, but it was like 3 paragraphs, right? And the way it went, it was nice, right? And understand too, when you looked at that neutral message and the person sent the email, and that email started with this explanation about the people Facebooking and tweeting, and all she was asking for was a policy to be written.
How does that fit into the tell them?
Well, in that one, it started off with an explanation, and that explanation, as we read it, seemed passive aggressive.
Right.
When it turned out to the structure of, when we structured it direct, we went with that first sentence was draft a policy. Then we got into the explanation, then we got into the conclusion, which had a date and clear instructions, right? So it goes down to a formula. Do I start off with the direct content first? Or do I put a buffer, some explanations in there, and then get to that, whatever the news is? So the tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them you're going to tell them. That's more in like a structured writing, like in your speech, right? I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you before I start talking. And then I'm going to tell you what I told you, right? So think of that format in more of like a speech or written like paper or,
Yeah. Or we're not re-emphasizing the bad news in that scenario.
Yeah, and even I would still just keep that in your mind. Tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them. Like keep that structure, right? Because what that does is it makes sure that you have continuity and consistency, and there's no unexpected words that come that you're speaking or that are dropped to the person reading this information, right? When you don't listen to that, tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them, and then tell them what you told them. What tends to happen is you just write this introduction that builds into the body, that builds into the conclusion. So when I read it, and you gave me the intro, but you didn't tell me what you were going to tell me. You just said, hey, here's the problem, and we're going to uncover this below. Right now, I go to uncover. Problem one. Barriers to noise. Problem two. Tiredness. Problem three. Whatever. Right. Whatever that last one. And then I go into the conclusion. And with this being said, because people experience the above three issues, this is why you have this result. But I literally just went from one thought to the next thought to the final thought. Right? We're going to start off, I'm going to tell you this, and then I give you 3 points, and then those are the 3 points I told you. But in my intro, like, you didn't really, like, remember, people are always thinking what's in there for them. So the Jedi mind trick is, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you before I tell you. So how you use that is always think, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you before I tell you. So this is that high level, right? For me, I'm going to talk to thinker. Let me first tell you what I'm going to tell you. And then I'll build in.
And that plays into more of the direct as opposed to the indirect? Oh, right.
Yes. All right, so PowerPoint presentation. So this one, I'm very so we make a lot of issues in corporate America when it comes, or we have a lot of issues in corporate America when it comes to these PowerPoints. And it's solely because we put so many words up here, right? And then, people forget that I am the presenter. This is my tool, right? So when there's a whole bunch of words on the screen, like I can't even give my presentation properly if I ever need a reference. All right. So I'll speak to the point of how you use your presentation to control the audience. All right. And what we want to do, or what we want to make sure that doesn't happen, we want to make sure that our presentations don't ultimately cause our own distractions when we're presenting to the audience. One of the big distractions I see is these motions, right? You use some flying in stuff, and it does this cool little spinny thing, right? And so I'm sitting here talking, and I'm like, okay, so we're going to cover speaking skills in your career, right? And I go to that next one, and this thing does, right? And what happens is I literally say, oh, we're going to go to, and I go to the next one. It does all this move. I have to look and wait until the action stops, and then I start talking. Or if I don't, you guys start looking at the movement, and everything I'm saying, probably you lost it in that last, so again, we kind of put this as like, oh, it's cool and it looks good and all this stuff, but you're making it more of a distraction and taking away from your message being comprehended. And you're also making it harder for you to present. All right. Speaking skills in your career, speaking skills can lead to your career success. They may increase opportunities for promotion. They're useful at every career stage, and they are among the most desired soft skills sought in job applicants. For my purposes, anytime you come up here to present, it's to sharpen your own toolkit. All right. The only way, like, it's prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. So the only way you're comfortable here is if you know your material. If you actually know your material, you're an expert with your material, and you practice. Like, outside of that, you're not going to be comfortable. Outside of that, you're not going to be confident. It's just. So, types of business presentations, you got a brief, which is a concise summary of an issue, proposal, or problem. You have a report, which is an informal or persuasive, simple, or elaborate delivered orally. You have podcasts, you have virtual presentations, you have webinars. So we have all these tools on how we can give presentations. All right. It's even recording these classes, right? Imagine what I'm able to do recording these classes, not only how I improve myself. Like, I go back and listen to these classes and I hear all my uhs and ums. When I tell you, it's like, every time I'm like, oh my God, Dayron. And I come in and I can get rid of them. All I gotta do is slow down. I know I'm a talk thinker. I don't let it stop me. I don't let it get in my head or anything along those lines, but I know I can do better. And I also know when I hear those fillers, it interrupts me even processing what I said. So I can only imagine what else you guys. So me listening to myself recorded helped me to improve. Right? So when I look at these, when I look at all of these tools that you can use, what I also would say is that, like, use your technology to your advantage, where if you ever do have to do a briefing for your boss, how do you present it to him? And what would you go about that strategy to make sure that what you present, or if you want to, I highly recommend that, no one knows their job better than you, right? So I should know my job line by line by line, as it's explained and described, right? All my job duties, right, and responsibilities. But you always, every year, have one special project that's relevant, right? So, you might identify a problem and then you implement a solution, or you go to your manager and say, hey, I saw this problem. I think that we could come up with a solution that will provide X efficiencies. Do you mind if I lead the initiative? I'm still doing my work. I'm still part of my responsibilities. I'm doing these things. I ask for support and training in this, but I also want to develop myself over here. How do you pitch that, right? Some managers are going to be in your way. But how do you pitch it to somebody that you know is going to be like, oh, I need you to do something else? I need to understand with them what's in it for that manager, so I ultimately know how to present this, what I'm looking to do. And then I do this project every year, again, that's relevant to the industry and relevant to the company. And when I ask you for more money every year, I'm not asking you for more money because I do my job. I'm asking you for more money because of the results that my project returns. I identified a problem, I implemented a solution, I taught people how to do it so that ultimately we can continue to improve as an organization going forward. All right, so when we look at this again, the podcast, the virtual presentations, the webinars, like, learn how to use your equipment to your advantage. All right, down to, another opportunity in corporate America that everyone probably has. Who likes to do documentation? Raise your hand if you like to do documentation.
I like to tell my butt.
Nobody likes to do documentation. So imagine if you go about you take on a project to document something that people are having challenges with. What does that look like, right? First, you have to write the instructions so simple that a fifth grader could use it, right? Down to turn the power button on, or open the laptop, turn on the power button. The power button is found here. Like, you gotta have the instructions so detailed a fifth grader could follow these things. But then imagine, once I document this process that nobody wants to document, I can record myself giving you a tutorial. I can make it a podcast. I can make it a Zoom where I share my screen and I walk you through it. And then I can upload that where I have a written documentation and I have a video documentation, and I shared it with my team so that if you ever have a problem and it's relating to this, guess what you don't gotta do? Come to me and say, hey, can I bother you for a second? Can you show me how to do this again? Oh, sure, no problem. Look here, I just emailed you the video that walks you through everything you gotta do. I just used my technology and created a presentation that solves a problem. Same thing, the pre-writing, I mean, a lot of this stuff is going to be similar to how the pre-writing is. Know your audience, know your purpose. Before I come in and speak, identify what the purpose is. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want listeners to remember? One thing that I will say too, when you're speaking in front of people, nobody remembers shit you said. If I asked you what I said at 6:10, I mean, we might know the framework of the conversation we talked about, but nobody really knows what I said. So sometimes we get into our own head when we present, and it's like you feel your body shaking, you feel the nerves, you see the eyes, and then all of a sudden you start stuttering, but you get into your own mental, your own head, right? So one, when I first start by saying, okay, this is what my goal is, what I want you guys to take away, like, it gives me like purpose on why I'm communicating this message, the way that I'm communicating this message. And then I also know that I want to reinforce this. So when I get off on tangents, if I have a purpose, I can always go back. Again, a lot of us walk into conversations, a lot of us walk into communication or situations when you're going to communicate with somebody, not prepared. You walk into meetings, what do you want me to do? Not with clear order or instruction of what you want to happen. So again, your success or not success or your opportunities that you have, how much is it to your control? Again, knowing that we have people that are not for us. Like, that's gonna happen, we've all come across that. But imagine how you handle that situation and that communication with that individual. You can be an asshole, but you're perceived one way, bless you. Or you can take it the strategic way and, hit the high road. But what I say is shit floats down creek. And it all starts by your personal mission and how you are accountable to yourself. The things you do the things you do that you get away with, the people you lead will start to do those same things. I'll put that down to even having better flowing group work. If I start this meeting off, hey, I'm a 4.0 student. I really get my work done 2 days in advance. So I don't want to be stressful to you guys, but you got to understand, I don't let anybody dictate or control my grade, and I don't accept bullshit. What's your statement when you walk into a room that you live by? Where now, because of that, guess what I don't get? I don't get excuses when I clearly stand my statement with goodwill and intention. I don't get excuses. You know what I'm about, and even if you don't, hey, Gustavo, look, you weren't here on this time. The conversation I had to you, you understand because I laid it out in the very beginning. So now, when I do have an explanation or when I do have a tough conversation, I can say, hey, Gustavo, man, I really appreciate you. When we had first talked, we said that we would all meet at the library at 6:45, and anybody that didn't make the meeting at 6:45 would be removed from this project. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to remove you from this project, but going forward for our next assignment, I want to make sure we are in communication. So do you mind if I send you a text message and an email just to make sure we're all on the same page? Like, that's in that, because I'm speaking from a place where we first had agreement and understanding. There's no argument in something that could be a hostile conversation. Know your audience. So, when we're talking about this presentation thing, you want to anticipate your audience reactions. You want to adjust to their needs and problems, focus on their benefits, and choose the best technique and style. For sake of time, we're not going to do this, but I did want you guys to take a moment, and maybe we'll do it next week. But I wanted to look at your pre-writing process for your speech, right? When you guys defined an HBCU audience, how did you define the HBCU audience?
Based on peers.
Based on your peers?
I know Crystal had identified, all the students here, like the traditional, the
Mhm.
online and adult degree
Yeah,
program.
the ADP program?
Oh, that's what I mean by peers. Like,
Yeah, the peers,
all
yeah,
peers.
the.
Well, if you go back to your first pre-writing, before you actually knew what we were doing, I don't think anybody actually described the full the full picture of what the HBCU environment looked like. Like, it was traditional students that were minorities, right? So if you go back and look at a very high-level explanation or a high-level definition of what the audience is, I'd argue, who would you miss in your message? If I geared my message to HBCU students only to traditional students, I'm gonna miss you guys. If I geared my message to only HBCU students, I'm gonna miss backwards. Right? So when we look at this picture, when we start to understand and analyze the audience, do it in a high level and detail, because like even in that, right, if it's all minority students, right, the way I'm approach the stories I'm gonna tell are something totally different. If it's a younger demographic and I'm not considering everybody, my point of identification is going to be different, right? So if I don't analyze the audience properly, my message might not hit the mark, my intended mark. Succeeding with 4 types of audiences: you're friendly, neutral, uninterested, and hostile. Now, also, I love this simplicity of this, right? So you'll see any type of if you guys ever have me in another class, you'll see my presentations. I'll take a 30 30-page presentation, like 30-slide presentation. My 30-slide presentations are about 100 slides. This right here is a 4-slide example. All right, so my first slide is, hey, succeeding with 4 types of audiences. So listen, if your audience is friendly, boom, 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 boom. If your audience is neutral, boom, 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 boom. If your audience is uninterested, boom, 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 boom. What I love about this is you can't get in front of me. See, if I sit here and I have all of these and I'm talking about how you respond to audiences, how am I going to naturally explain this on this slide? Right? We read top to bottom, left to right. So what I'm going to do is, when I'm explaining this to you, hey, so this is how you succeed with 4 types of audiences. The first audience we're going to cover is friendly. So when you have a friendly audience, like I'm going back and forth to here and pointing it out to you, versus when I do it this way, I don't have to, like, even when I go back and look on my slide, it's a quick look. I'm not losing my momentum. I can talk, I can tangent all I want, and guess what? You never get ahead of me. And if I tangent and I don't know where I'm at, all I gotta do is do a quick look, go to the next one, and it's my next talking point. So for your presentations, make sure you follow the instructions to the T. All right, it's no more than 5 bullet points per slide. Every slide should be consistently formatted. So make sure the text, if it's a 14-point font, all the text should be 14-point font. Any pictures and images, make sure that they're clear and legible and not grainy. Make sure there's no hidden text or unexpected text. You should cite your pictures, but I'm not requiring you to cite your pictures. Like, cite the source. You should cite the source. I'm not requiring it, but you should cite your source. It's good practice. In academia, to cite your sources at all times. All right.
With these bullet points in these presentations, because you talked earlier about transition points. How you just did it now is still a transition point, but I guess it's not as distracting as the previous example.
Okay.
So, okay.
Yeah. And well, what I like, some people do like the fly
Right.
in and it's all this. So like this is clear. This is just boom, it goes up, bang. Like even in the like this one was slow. So it's like this. It's well, in our next thing we'll look at is neutral. I gotta wait for that to come up before I can say it. So again, it's not long. I can, it's short, but people will do a whole paragraph and this thing is flying in and I gotta wait for the paragraph to set up and then go into and I done lost my audience. So when the audience is friendly, you want to use any organizational pattern. You want to involve the audience, be warm, pleasant, and open, include humor, personal anecdotes, and experiences. If the audience is neutral, you want to present both sides of the issue, use pros and cons or problem solution pattern, do nothing showy, use confident small gestures, use facts, statistics, avoid humor and personal stories. So another thing that you want to do when you're speaking, never make yourself the hero. Remember, people are always thinking with them, what's in it for me? If I come here and tell you about all my good all my good experiences and everything I've accomplished, and I tell you my story, what are you guys really thinking?
How's that affect you?
Cool story, bro. Thanks. Nice to know. Right? That don't have nothing to do with me. Right? So you might listen, it might be a good story, but you don't feel compelled to listen because it has nothing to do with you. So when there's an audience, and again, this is why I want to identify my audience. It's why it's so key to identify who your audience is, because I know what matters to them. I know where I connect with them. I can share a story where I may not have, like in my written introduction, I started off telling you guys how I remember when I was in your space. All right, going to school at night, multiple responsibilities for work. If I'm being honest, sometimes I was going to work doing schoolwork. You relate to that. So when I tell the story, I'm telling you about me, but I'm telling you about me in a place where you identify, like, oh, he's been through this before, right? Now, if the audience is uninterested, you want to be brief. This is the direct versus indirect. If they're uninterested, there's no reason for me to teach you, educate you, and go through this long explanation. All right. Avoid topical and pro-con patterns. Be dynamic, move around, use large gestures, use humor, colorful visuals, quotations, startling statistics. So in this, you're trying to engage the audience, grab their attention, but just be careful because you don't want to do too much where they lose the intention or the meaning behind your message. Now, if the audience is hostile, organize using a non-controversial pattern, be calm and controlled, speak evenly and slowly, include objective data and expert opinion, and avoid anecdotes and humor. I think I shared this with you, but I'll share it with you again. The best experience I saw, it was when the PA governor or the governor that was running, it was Governor Tom Wolf, was running for office. Barack Obama was running for governor of Pennsylvania. President Barack Obama came to Temple University in Philadelphia, and he was going to introduce Governor Tom Wolf. Well, before Barack Obama came the mayor of Philadelphia, and this mayor of Philadelphia nobody likes. So the mayor of Philadelphia comes out, it's Temple, all these students are here, and it comes out and all you hear is boo, boo, like literally the whole crowd is going boo, right? My man walks out, everybody's booing, he's like, Obama, 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 all the boos. Boo, Obama, Obama, Obama. So I know you guys aren't here to see me, but let's go without further ado. Let's bring out the true man of the hour, which you guys are all here for, President Barack Obama. Switched the whole energy of the audience, everything. And it literally was, he was calm, he wasn't controversial, he didn't feed into it, but what he did was knew what the audience was there for. And everybody wasn't there to see him, they were there to see Barack Obama. like smoothest thing I've ever seen. So again, the importance of understanding the audience and how they're gonna react, it's so key in controlling how they respond to you. Why that matters for us is we don't want people to be hostile towards us. We don't want to be hostile towards people. Good organization and intention. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them. And then tell them what you told them. So this still applies into the presentations. Before I give a presentation, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you in this damn presentation. And then when I go through the presentation, I'm going to tell you what I already told you I was going to tell you in this damn presentation. And when I conclude, I'm going to tell you what I told you that I told you I was going to tell you. And that's continuity. That's your intro, your body, and your conclusion. Anything that's new in my body that I didn't tell you in my conclusion, either I need, or my intro, I need to update my intro, I need to take it out of my body. Anything that's in my conclusion that I didn't tell you about in here and I didn't talk about in here doesn't need to be there. And if it is, I need to update all this. Which again, when we use the 3x3 writing process, my update, if I have to update any of my content in here, I'm not updating my written draft. I'm going back to my outline. And I'm updating my outline because ultimately my outline should say, what am I going to tell them? My intro, this is my purpose. This is what I want you to walk away with. My body's going to repeat those, but it's going to have 3 points that have subcomponents to it. And then my conclusion is going to summarize exactly into what I told you and what the results were. Same process. Now we're applying this to presentations. And again, the reason is when I talk to you, all you're thinking is with them. So the Jedi mind trick is when I talk to you, I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna tell you before I tell you. Because you're thinking what?
What's in it for me?
What's in it for me with them? So I tell you what I'm gonna tell you because you're thinking with them. And then I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna tell you that I told you I was gonna tell you. Goals in the introduction. In the introduction, you want to capture the listener's attention and get them involved. You want to identify yourself and build credibility. You want to preview your main points. So with our presentation next week, and what we'll do is, can you guys just organize in your teams real quick, just so I can visually see?
Gretchen and I.
Gretchen is probably.
Do you want us to sit together?
Yes.
They don't care.
Yes.
And we're missing one.
You're missing.
Graciela.
You three. And
we're missing.
you guys are missing Envy.
We're missing our picture.
You're missing Altisha, and then you're two, and then you guys are missing NV, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
You're missing NV, Gustavo and, nothing. Gustavo, you guys are missing who?
Graciela.
Graciela, yes. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, we got 4 groups, all right?
I don't think you did. I don't think you did.
All right. So our first group is Crystal, Gretchen, and you are missing Indy. Okay. Your audience for your final speech is
I already planned it out
going
last week.
to be hostile. Jackie, Lyndon, and you're missing Tisha. Your group, your audience is going to be neutral. All right, and then Nefta, Gustavo, and you guys are missing who again? Graciela, Grace. So you guys are going to be fellas, you guys are going to be disinterested.
Well, you already said neutral in the email or in the
I didn't give you guys anything.
So, but the email that
I didn't give you guys
the
anything.
assignment that was sent today,
Didn't give you anything.
okay.
You guys are going to be disinterested. Okay? So your group, when you write your speech, they're going to receive it disinterested. Okay? So you're disinterested.
That's fine.
And then you guys are, Matrix and Victoria, you guys will be, your group is going to receive this positively. Okay? So again, how this is going to work for your projects, all right? You guys are within your team, fellas in the back, please. You guys are going to be within your team. What you're going to do is you're going to write this speech. Now, again, some of my frustrations of your lack of communication with each other throughout the week, and even some of the, I'm only getting an average of 8 submissions per submission, and it's 11 students. My frustration is that the first assignments, the introduction, that was a give me, it was easy, and we did the same assignment again. So that shouldn't have been a lot of work. The second part was you guys did the individual speech on your own. The speech that you guys wrote as a team, that was an email formatted, that should have been enhanced for readability, and it should have been using bullet points and bullet points and so forth. You guys wrote that individually. Well, you should have wrote that individually, but I get only on average 8 students submitting an assignment. So why it wasn't a heavy lift is because you've already done the work. All you had to do is now come together as a team, and how do we take the pre-writing, put it together? How do we now break this out in the outline? Because the target audience was persuasive. So now my format of how I introduce this and how I structure this is going to be with the intention to persuade the audience to follow the instructions that are given in the email. All right. It wasn't a lot of work because you all should have done it before. Going into where we are now, your final speech, the presentation. So what I think you were alluding to, the final presentation is open and it's available to you. The difference is that you guys don't have. Everybody just got assigned a different subject or a different way the audience is going to receive you. Okay, so when you do your speech, the speech is about how students can listen better in class, whether online or in person, which was our first speech that we worked on. So when again, I say this shouldn't be a heavy lift because you guys have already done it. Unfortunately, on average, only 8 people submit the assignments out of 11. And it gets progressively worse. Like I'm looking at my assignments today, I probably have 4 that were submitted. And then mind you, this is during a week where I email people and like literally they don't respond until today or yesterday. You guys should be on your email every single day, especially because of any communication you're going to get from me is going to be to HT email. All right, but don't cause yourself stress working with each other. Now, also know that if members are not responsive, everybody's responsible for their own submission. So if you know there's somebody that's not communicating, don't stop. Do the work. They're responsible for their own submission. If you guys do your work and you don't hear from your third team member, they're responsible for their own submission. So, hey, we couldn't get in touch with such and such. This is why on the team submissions, that last page is an independent submission or independent component, but everybody submits their own statement of contribution. So that if somebody's not working on the group project, hey, you know, Demetri didn't participate on this assignment, grade the submission separate or grade me separately from the team. I'm gonna do that. And then Demetri, he probably didn't submit anything, Demetri gets a 0. All right, so, or, right, you got a team and Demetri doesn't contribute with the team. The team puts, hey, you know, we all work together, Demetri didn't contribute. Demetri is probably not gonna have something to submit. And if Demetri does have something to submit, but everybody's statement of contribution says he didn't contribute, Demetri is gonna get a 0. In that situation, Demetri is not gonna come to the team, he's gonna come to me and ask why he got a 0. You don't have to deal with that problem if somebody's not being responsive or contributing to your group. Okay, so use that. I mean, we're at the end now, so, you know, kind of is what it is, but, you know, use that to your advantage, right? Like this is professional, not personal. We all know the work is the work is the work. All right, this is no new work and it's been done literally probably 20 times now. Traditional and ADP. So You'll create your speech as a team. When creating your speech as a team, again, everybody has a different format of how they're going to create their speech because some are going to be indirect, some are going to be direct, right? In that indirect, some are going to be a little bit more gentle, where others are going to be a little bit more, like you're going to have a different approach depending on how the audience is going to receive the message. This is how I want you to set up your presentations, okay? So you write your speech, and when you go to do your presentation, what I'm challenging you to do is to have your presentation go hand in hand with your written speech. So when we come in here next week, one person from your team is going to read the speech. You're going to read the speech verbatim as it was written in your submission. So literally come in with your laptop, your phone, your iPad, whatever it is, and read that speech. There's going to be another person that introduces the group and the team, right? My team is this. The audience that we're our audience that we're communicating with doesn't receive this in a hostile manner. Yeah, team members are Gustava, Netta, and Victoria. Right, and then the person reads. Whoever's up here is literally, as this person's reading, they're going to be. My challenge for you is to make the presentation align with the speech. And the challenge is in that I should be reading, and as I'm reading, the speech is going like the PowerPoint's going like this. So this person is moving the PowerPoint, and I'm reading, so we have to practice trigger points or transition points. I need to know the words of when I need to transfer, because what I don't want to see you guys doing is, then you should do this. Then you should do this, next slide. Then you should do, I want it to be a smooth process, and then I'm just going to give feedback on the PowerPoint and the distractions. Like, it's very much so like a live, interactive, like constructive feedback type of thing. What I want you guys, and this is 90% of people in corporate America make these mistakes. They build these presentations that have a whole bunch of text on them, and they end up becoming their own problem when information is not received, when information is not comprehended, when people interrupt the presentation and ask questions when it's 4 more slides down. How do you go about that and handle these? But again, where you keep control, where everybody knows I'm the presentation, I'm the person you should listen to, my slides are support. So that you know what I'm talking about. And then if I tangent, I can make a quick, look, we're talking about conclusions. And it's nothing more. Right now, again, what happens is you have all this on there as one slide. And then when I get lost, I have to go back and I'm like skimming through this, which is taking time. And again, I'm the focal point, not this. So the moment I go like this, and I'm like, okay, well, and then you leave so include a statement. I done took away my flow, took away your attention, everything. Just because there's so much text over here, where again, what I like to do, I'll make a slide like this into 3 slides. Slide 1, boom. Slide 2, I would actually make this bold. I'll make this one size smaller so that you know, and I know that the main text is the bolded text. And so this will be, now this isn't highlighted, this is. And then I go to this slide, these are smaller just by 1 font size. This is bigger by 1 font size, but it's bolded. So now, as I'm going through, you know where I'm at because this is bold, this is bold, this is bold. And if I ever tangent and I need to go back, I don't have to go through all this. I can go right to the bolded one really quick, and it's just a quick glance and look.
So when, in this example, you're literally showing us 4 different slides, like when it says conclusion, that's 1 slide. You're not making those each bullet point come up on 1 slide. It's not like.
I do a new slide. Well, so this one does it where it's all on 1 slide, but it somehow transitions. In mine, I just turn 1 slide into 4. And it's again, because what I love about it, you can't get in front of me. Like, so, I mean, I could show you some examples of other classes. What I love is you can't get in front of me at all. This is actually the only, presentation I use that's like an academic provided one. Because it does that same process where, it doesn't give you too much text. The words match with the pictures, right? Which is another issue that we do. We just put pictures that we think are nice, but they don't align with the slide, right? We read in context, not content. So if you tell me this slide is a bird, but I see a picture of a frog, I'm confused. You told me it was a bird, and then I'm seeing a frog. Right? So even when we put these things together, we need to make sure that the icons match the text if we are ever going to use icons, images, and so forth. But again, we kind of go, oh, that's a cute picture. I want to put that on there. And then that picture goes on and it has nothing to do with the slide. And then I lost track of what you were saying. I'm looking at this damn picture, trying to figure out how it goes to what you're saying and what you're talking about. And then I'm trying to break that down. I didn't hear anything you said. So we'll look at and go through, we'll look at, like, I'll give you feedback from that perspective. Okay, so class is over. But it's not over, but it's over. So from week 1, week 2, there were assignments, and like I said, the highest amount of submissions I got was 8. And you guys also know I'm very big on, I don't encourage you guys to give up, right? So what I said is that if you miss an assignment, do it, send it to me in email. I'm not going to grade it, but I will use that for when the semester or when the 5-week period's over. If you have an 89.5, I can give you 20 points for that submission, and then that takes you from an 89.5 to a 90. All right, so I use it to round up, only if I need to round up. All right, now I have not gotten one single email from anybody that has missed
I
any.
didn't hear you say that, so I got you. I didn't, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't.
We'll have a conversation, but there's a reason why.
Okay.
But, so those, like, this is the standard that was set in the beginning of the class. Like, anything you miss, I don't encourage giving up. The work is the work, right? Again, I haven't received any emails from anybody. So what I did, every submission from week 1 and week 2 that is a written submission that has to be uploaded is available to submit for partial credit. It is available until tomorrow at 12:01 p.m. So I'm in the class right now, but I'm pretty sure most of you probably don't need to go anywhere because you need to catch up on these assignments and submit these assignments. And if you haven't been doing the work and sending them to me in email, it's going to be you going climbing up a mountain hill trying to complete these assignments that you never worked on in the first place. But I'm opening an opportunity for you guys to get, again, partial credit. A late submission is 20 points. This is fully partial credit. So I wouldn't expect anything more than a 60, but it's better than 0. And trust me, the way it works out for the end of the semester, like, it's why I'm really not concerned at how I break things down. Like 25% of your grade is individual assignments, 10% of your grade is presentations, 20% or 15% of your grade is the quizzes, and then the remaining are the final projects. So what your grade looks like right now is only based off of your individual submissions and your quizzes, and your discussion. That discussion was 200 points, and there was only one discussion that was there. So your grade, if you didn't do those 2 discussion submissions, your grade looks terrible because that's 200 points and it's worth 10% of your grade. That has also been opened until tomorrow at 12:01 p.m. So basically, any submissions for the first 2 weeks is available for you to upload on top of all the submissions that we have to do for week 5. I don't want to confuse and overload anybody at this point. So I'm going to stop and leave the review of the upcoming class assignments to you. I will send you an email tomorrow with the assignments for next week, right? High level, 1 quiz, chapter 13 and 14 quiz. All right, that was open last week, but it's due next week because the way it's broke down was chapter 13, we would have gone in class today, chapter 14 next week. All right, so chapter 13 and 14 quiz, it's 52 points, it's both chapters together. Make sure before you start that quiz that you review that material and you know where stuff is. It might not be as easily findable for 13 and 14, so just make sure you have some type of grasp with that material before opening that quiz. You still, I think you have 65, 75 minutes to take the quiz. All right. So quiz, chapter 13 and 14, only one quiz with 2 chapters, but only one quiz. Okay. Second thing I opened up is a discussion. We talked about how managing multiple platforms can be stressful and a challenge. In this class, the first submission you guys did was send everybody an email. We talked about that last week and how stressful that was, whether we read those emails, didn't read those emails. This discussion that opened up today, we'll talk about sharing your experience about managing multiple platforms. Answer those questions in your discussion again. I wouldn't leave, just do the discussion right now. Get your original post done. That original post is due Sunday by midnight. Your 2 replies to 2 classmates will be due before we come into class next week. So again, if you do the original post now, it makes your life easier coming into class next week. So quiz, chapter 13 and 14, our second discussion will be opened up, and then our final project. So the final project, it will be 3 components. Number 1 is the written speech. The written speech, make sure that you have it formatted to your designated audience. I will send that to you in email as well, since a couple of us don't have a team member that's present in class. I'll send that to you in email as well. So that you guys know, but I have it written down. But you'll write your speech, make sure it's directed to whatever the audience is, how they're going to receive it, and then you'll complete a presentation. So 1 submission, speech, pre-writing, topic-based outline, your draft, and then works cited. The second submission is the PowerPoint presentation. Okay? And then the third submission is the process we're going to go by. All right, again, I must need you guys got to read these instructions. All right, just because I want to leave you guys time to catch up. So there's 4 roles that are that you'll define for the speech next week. There's a feedback recorder, an opening presenter. There is a opening presenter, a presenter, a feedback recorder, and there's 1 more. Okay, so for my groups of 3, whoever is the opening presenter should just be the recorder. For my team of 2, opening presenter will be the recorder, and then the person that does the presenting will do the whatever that other 4th role is. All right, so everybody will have a role. 1 person from each group will email me indicating what the roles are. I'll show you this just because.
Feedback for.
So again, as you're navigating all these assignments and stuff, the best place you can look at is Canvas and the modules. It breaks it down by week, what the assignments were, and so forth. So this one is going to be in the week 5, and it's the role identification, part B.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so part B, role identification, you have a recorder, an opening presenter, a presenter, and a feedback recorder. So for you 2, the opening presenter cannot be the presenter.
Okay.
All right, so 1 person will be the recorder and the opening presenter. The other person will be the presenter and the feedback. Okay, very important. So again, 1, email me declaring your roles for my group of 3s. Just your recorder, and your, I would either make the recorder and the opening presenter the same person, or the opening presenter and the feedback recorder the same person, or make the recorder and the feedback recorder the same person.
for recorder, can we do an audio recording on our phone as well as?
No, it's just, recorder is the person that's going to email me. So again, why I say.
I'm here, like, record.
Why I say so y'all sign one team member to the document and attach within an email to the professor indicating participating members by name, role, and responsibility. You'll create the Word document, you'll send an email with a specific title line, carbon copying all team members. All right, and then so everybody has a role in the position. So the recorder, your role starts now, all right? Or at least before we come into class next week, all right? And then opening presenter again introduces the group and manages the PowerPoint slide. The presenter reads. The person that does the feedback, honestly, I would make sure that the feedback recorder is the most accountable person, because this is the one that happens after we leave class. And everybody needs the submission done by this person. So whoever is going to be the most accountable and, ensure that the work's done in the right manner, make sure they're that feedback recorder. Okay? So again, the best way to review all these assignments is in Canvas. You got your discussion part A is the written speech, part B is role identification, part C is the presentation upload.
Did you outline how many slides it needs to be specifically
Up to you. It's gonna go hand in hand.
with the speech?
When I say up to you, I'm gonna put an asterisk there. Don't give me no bullshit and do 3 slides and say that's our presentation. Like, actually put some effort and content, and it should be hand in hand. So like, I'm gonna say for recording purposes that at least do 6 slides, but again, it's more for the exercise than anything else. You wanna make sure your slides go with the words without being instructive. Okay? All right, the resume upload and the cover letter upload are available too for your final project. I believe for part 1 and part 2, same issue. I only got 8 uploads for those assignments. I believe I opened those as well until 12:01 tomorrow. All right, so with that being said, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you guys an email first thing tomorrow morning detailing